Joining us on the program right now, John Frazier, the director of NRA-ILA's Research and Information Division. How are you, John?
Hey, Cam. I'm doing fine.
Thanks for coming on the show tonight, and the very appropriate bumper music, the Crazy Train. Senator Chuck Schumer apparently calling for the creation of a no-ride list for Amtrak trains. I'm guessing that this would be very similar to the no-fly list, John, and therefore I'm guessing that Senator Schumer doesn't want those on the no-ride list to be able to purchase a firearm either.
Well, yeah, you can't accuse Senator Schumer of not being on top of the news. You know, this is when the great crisis in America was the price of breakfast cereal. There he was. So now with Osama bin Laden dead and people worried about rail security based on the intelligence findings there, he has a bill to have a no-ride list on trains.
Okay. Now, again, he has not specifically said that if you're on the no-ride list, you can't buy a gun. But that's the legislation that he has supported regarding the no-fly list, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's been after that for several years now.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this list, because I you've heard Rahm Emanuel say that if your name's on this list, you're not a part of the American family. Senator Schumer has, clearly said that you're a terrorist if your name's on this list. What exactly is this list, John? Who is on this list?
Well, the list is pretty secretive, and we don't know exactly who's on the list because the list is classified, and a lot of the procedures involved in putting people on and taking them off the list are also classified. And Actually, I should back up a second and make clear the difference between the terrorist watch list and the no-fly list. They're both classified, but
okay.
The no-fly list is a subset of the watch list.
So it is a smaller part of the overall watch list.
Right. It's people who the government or someone in the government believes are worth watching. And then the no-fly, that's the watch list, and then the no-fly list is people who are considered to be worth watching specifically because of some relationship to an air security threat. The problem is we've seen over and over and discussed before that plenty of perfectly innocent people have found themselves on the list. I mean,
sure.
The late Senator Kennedy is probably the most famous example.
I think we were talking last week. There was a story about an 8-year-old Cub Scout
That's right.
who ended up on the list. And he had a very common name. And apparently, if one person on the list is a common name, everybody else with that name is going to be on the list too, right?
Well, I know people personally who are on the list for that reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. And so the gun control advocates in Congress and in the semi-private sector believe that, again, if your name's on that list, that you should not be able to purchase a firearm.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's part of their overall strategy of having larger and larger classes of people who are prohibited from buying or possessing firearms. And the less due process of law, the better, as far as they're concerned.
All right, what about the people who are on the list, John, for a reason? That they are suspected. What happens if, for instance, they try to buy a gun? Can they do it under the radar?
No. If they're on, if for the last 5 or 6 years, the FBI administratively has set up a process where if a person who's on the terrorist watch list tries to buy a gun, that person, the purchase will be delayed while notification of the attempted purchase goes back to, or transfer, I should say, really, goes back to whichever FBI field office put the person on the list.
Okay. And
then they have some time to figure out if they have evidence that the person should actually be prohibited. So if a person has later been convicted of a crime, or they have some more hard information like that, they can block the sale. Or, of course, if it's a person that they're actively looking to apprehend, they can do that.
Yeah. All right. Now, and there may be times where they don't want to tip off the individual, and so they'll let the sale proceed, but they'll be aware of it, right?
Exactly. sometimes you might want to let the sale proceed and then follow the person around under close scrutiny. That was sort of the theory of Operation Fast and Furious, except that there were thousands of guns instead of individual people.
Right. Yeah.
So this is an example of where that can be an effective strategy, unlike Fast and Furious.
Interesting. Okay, but again, that wouldn't be allowed to happen if Senator Schumer got his way.
Well, it depends. I mean, there have been different versions of the legislation, and some of it would just be an automatic denial, which would be obviously very problematic.
Yeah.
You're suddenly denied a gun purchase, and you don't know why, and there's no reason it should be. I'm not sure which is more troublesome, that or the very Orwellian system in Senator Lautenberg's legislation, for example, where you would where the government would have the discretion to deny you or not. So they might allow you to buy a gun one day and then stop you the next day and then allow you the day after. And if you discover what's going on and decide to pursue an appeal of it, they would have the right to withhold evidence, basically, and you're fighting the government with one hand tied behind your back.
Right. Yeah. Well, absolutely. And the New York Times opines about this today, I wonder, John, like, what other rights do they think should be taken away without you being suspected of a crime? I mean, much less formally charged with a crime or arrested. Should you lose your right to vote? Should you lose your right to drive? Should should you be able to go to church every Sunday? I mean, what else should be taken from you?
Well, exactly. As one, I think I saw a blog comment today to that effect that if they were talking about saying that a person should be able to be stopped from writing newspaper editorials because he was on a watch list, for example, that wouldn't fly with the New York Times.
Oh no, absolutely not. But because it's the Second Amendment, I guess it's fine and dandy with them. So what's the status on these bills in Congress right now, John?
Well, we're pretty much at a stalemate on gun legislation in Congress, but they're always looking for the next tragedy to exploit.
Yeah. All right. Well, John, thank you again, sir, for coming on the program tonight. It's good catching up with you, and I know we'll do it again very soon.
Always a pleasure, Kim.
Thank you, sir. John Frazier, NRA-ILA's Director of Research and Information, joining us here on Cam and Company.